A bustling city street, where the unexpected unfolds under twinkling lights. A journey of redemption and love that will warm your heart as you drift toward sleep. Felix Harrington, a millionaire, whose world shifts when he spots a beggar woman with two young twins. She's Sophia Langston, his childhood love, now lost in despair. What begins as a chance encounter spirals into a story of compassion, as Felix offers Sophia and her daughters a lifeline, unraveling her painful past and igniting her dreams of law. Through confrontations, confessions, and a love that heals old wounds, their bond transforms them into a family forged by trust. Will Sophia embrace this second chance? Snuggle up, let the city's hum fade, and let this story cradle you into dreams. Share where you're listening from in the comments, and subscribe to join our nightly tales. Type "sunshine" at the end if you uncover their secret. Stay tuned to find out. The city pulsed with life, its streets a chaotic symphony of honking horns, hurried footsteps, and flickering neon signs that cast a restless glow on the evening air. Felix Harrington strode through the throng, his tailored navy suit pristine despite the urban bustle, his golden hair catching the light like a beacon. A self-made millionaire at 32, he carried an air of quiet confidence, his piercing blue eyes scanning the world with calculated detachment. Yet, beneath his polished exterior, a restlessness stirred, a longing for something beyond boardrooms and bank accounts. The crowd parted around him, strangers unaware of the storm brewing in his heart. He was en route to a late dinner, his mind tangled in contracts and deadlines, when a faint sob pierced the city's din. It came from a shadowed corner where the streetlights barely reached, and though he could have walked on, something inexplicable tugged at him, urging him to pause. There, against a graffiti-streaked wall, sat a woman in tattered clothes, her blonde hair matted and falling over a face etched with exhaustion. Two identical girls, no older than 4, huddled beside her, their threadbare dresses clinging to their frail frames. One child wept softly, her tiny hands rubbing red-rimmed eyes, while the other stared blankly at the passing crowd, her expression hollow. The woman murmured to them, her voice a fragile thread of love woven with desperation. "Hush, Lily. Someone will help us soon." Felix's breath caught, his polished shoes rooted to the pavement. The woman's face, though marred by dirt and sorrow, was achingly familiar. Memories flooded back, schoolyard laughter, stolen glances, and the sting of rejection. It was Sophia Langston, the girl who'd once held his heart, who'd mocked his clumsy attempts to win her affection. How had she fallen so far? Felix's heart pounded, a mix of shock and sorrow churning within him. He stood frozen, the city's chaos fading to a dull roar as he grappled with the sight before him. Sophia, once radiant and untouchable, now sat broken, her daughters suffering a mirror of her own. He wanted to turn away, to bury the past and its pain, but the girls' faces, Lily's tears, Rose's vacant stare, held him captive. His wealth, his power, felt meaningless in the face of their need. Slowly, he stepped forward, his polished demeanor softening as he knelt to their level, his voice low and hesitant. "Sophia," he said, the name both a question and a plea. She looked up, her green eyes widening with recognition, then clouding with shame. "Please, go," she whispered, clutching her daughters tighter, as if shielding them from judgment. Sophia's voice trembled, but her words carried a defiant pride that Felix recognized from years ago, though now it was brittle, worn thin by hardship. She turned her face away, her hands smoothing Lily's tangled hair. But Felix saw the quiver in her lips, the exhaustion she couldn't hide. "What happened to you?" he asked, his tone gentle yet urgent, his concern outweighing the old wounds her rejection had left. She shook her head, her gaze fixed on the cracked pavement. "It doesn't matter. We're managing. Just leave us." But the lie was stark. Lily's soft sobs and Rose's shivering frame told a different story. Felix's chest tightened, anger at her circumstances mixing with a resolve he hadn't known he possessed. "You're not managing," he said firmly, his voice cutting through her defenses. "You and your girls are coming with me. I can help." Sophia's eyes flashed with resistance, her pride a flickering flame against the weight of her reality. She clutched Lily and Rose closer, their small bodies trembling in the evening chill, and for a moment, Felix thought she'd refuse. "I can't," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't need your pity." But Felix saw the desperation in her daughter's faces, the way Rose's tiny hand gripped her mother's sleeve, and he knew he couldn't walk away. "This isn't pity," he said, his tone resolute, his blue eyes locking with hers. "I'm not leaving you here, not like this. You're coming with me, and I won't take no for an answer." The girls looked up, Lily's tears slowing as she studied him, curiosity mingling with caution, while Rose's wide eyes softened, sensing safety in his presence. The standoff hung heavy, the city's noise a distant hum as Sophia wrestled with her pride. Felix waited, his outstretched hand a silent promise, his wealth and status irrelevant in this moment of raw human need. Finally, Sophia's shoulders sagged, her defiance crumbling under the weight of her daughter's suffering. She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek, and whispered, "Okay." Felix exhaled, relief flooding him as he pulled out his phone, his voice crisp as he summoned his driver. "Be here in 5 minutes," he said, then turned to Sophia, his expression softening. "Let's go. There's no reason for you to stay here." He offered his hand again, and this time she took it, her touch tentative but warm, a fragile bridge between their past and an uncertain future. As the sleek, black car pulled up, Felix helped Sophia and the twins inside, carrying Rose while Sophia held Lily, their exhaustion palpable. The girls' heads rested on their mother's shoulders, their eyes heavy with trust and fatigue. Felix sat across from them, the silence in the car thick with unspoken questions. He glanced at Sophia, her face turned toward the window, lost in thought, and felt a pang of determination. This was no mere act of charity. It was a reckoning with the past, a chance to rewrite their story. The city lights blurred outside, but within the car, a new journey began, one that would test their hearts, heal old wounds, and forge a bond stronger than either could imagine. The car glided through the city's twinkling maze, its hum a stark contrast to the raw tension of the street corner where Felix Harrington had found Sophia Langston and her twin daughters. Inside, Sophia sat rigid, clutching Lily and Rose, their small bodies slumped against her, exhausted from hunger and cold. Felix watched them, his polished exterior masking a storm of emotions: shock at Sophia's fall, anger at her suffering, and a fierce resolve to offer them refuge. The mansion loomed ahead, its iron gates parting to reveal a sprawling estate bathed in golden light, a world so far removed from the gritty pavement that Sophia knew that she tightened her grip on the girls, her green eyes flickering with unease. As the car stopped, Felix stepped out, offering his hand again, his voice steady but warm. "You're safe here," he said. And though Sophia nodded, her hesitation spoke of a pride battered but unbroken. The grand doors swung open, and Mrs. Clara, Felix's housekeeper, greeted them with a smile that softened the mansion's imposing elegance. Her gray hair was neatly pinned, her apron crisp, but her eyes held a motherly warmth that eased Sophia's tension. "Welcome, dear," she said, glancing at the twins, who peeked from behind their mother's tattered dress. Felix, sensing Sophia's discomfort in the marble-floored foyer, where a chandelier cast prisms of light, issued quiet instructions. "Prepare the guest suite, Clara, and bring something warm to eat." Clara nodded, disappearing down a corridor, while Felix led them to a living room where a fire crackled, its glow dancing on oak-paneled walls. Sophia hesitated at the threshold, the plush rugs and velvet sofas alien to her reality. But Lily's soft whimper urged her forward. "It's okay," she murmured to the girls, though her voice trembled, betraying her own uncertainty. Felix gestured to a sofa, his movements deliberate, as if aware that any sudden gesture might shatter Sophia's fragile composure. She sat, pulling Lily and Rose close, their frail frames sinking into the cushions. The fire's warmth began to thaw their chilled bodies, and Rose's vacant stare softened, her tiny hand loosening its grip on Sophia's sleeve. Clara returned with a tray of steaming vegetable soup, fresh bread, and warm milk, the aroma filling the room with a promise of comfort. Lily's eyes widened, and she reached for a spoon, but Sophia gently steadied her hand, her pride warring with the girl's hunger. "Go ahead," Felix said softly, kneeling to Rose's level, his blue eyes kind. "You must be starving." The twins ate eagerly, their faces brightening with each bite, and Sophia watched, her throat tight with gratitude she couldn't yet voice. As the girls ate, Felix studied Sophia, her face a map of hardship, lines of worry etched where youthful radiance once shone. The girl who'd laughed at his schoolboy crush was gone, replaced by a woman forged in survival, yet still clinging to a stubborn independence. He wanted to ask more, to unravel the years that had led her to that street corner, but her guarded expression stopped him. Instead, he spoke to Clara, who hovered nearby. "Make sure their room has extra blankets and find some clothes for the girls." Sophia's head snapped up, her voice sharp despite its softness. "We don't need charity, Felix. We'll manage," but her words faltered as Lily, soup dribbling down her chin, smiled for the first time, and Felix saw the crack in Sophia's armor. "It's not charity," he said, his tone firm yet gentle. "It's what you need right now." The meal ended, and Clara led them to a guest suite, its soft beds and lavender-scented linens a stark contrast to the cold sidewalks they'd known. Sophia tucked Lily and Rose in, their eyes heavy as they sank into the pillows, their breathing slowing to a peaceful rhythm. She lingered, brushing a strand of hair from Rose's face, her heart torn between relief and shame. This haven, this kindness, felt like a debt she could never repay, and the weight of Felix's gaze from the doorway only deepened her unease. "They'll sleep well tonight," he said, his voice low, not pressing for answers, but offering a quiet reassurance. Sophia nodded, unable to meet his eyes, and murmured, "Thank you, Felix. I don't know why you're doing this." Her words hung between them, heavy with unspoken history. Felix stepped back, giving her space, but his mind raced as he retreated to his study. The firelight flickered across leather-bound books, but he saw only Sophia's face, haunted, resilient, and achingly familiar. He poured a glass of whiskey, the amber liquid catching the light, and sank into a chair, grappling with the collision of past and present. Sophia's rejection years ago had stung, but it was a boy's pain, long buried. Now, seeing her broken, her daughter's suffering etched in their small faces, stirred something deeper, a need to protect, to restore. He couldn't erase her past, but he could offer her a future, and the determination settled in his chest like a vow. Across the mansion, Sophia sat on the edge of the bed, the twins' soft snores a fragile anchor. The room's warmth enveloped her, but her thoughts churned. Memories of choices that led to ruin, of nights spent shielding Lily and Rose from the cold. Felix's kindness was a lifeline, but accepting it meant confronting her failures, her pride a tattered shield against his generosity. She touched the locket at her neck, a relic of better days, and whispered to herself, "Just one night." But as she lay beside her daughters, The mansion's quiet embrace hinted at something more, a chance to heal if she could find the courage to accept it. Morning light spilled through the mansion's tall windows, painting the dining room in hues of gold as Lily and Rose's giggles echoed, their small hands reaching for pancakes stacked high with berries. Sophia, seated across from them, managed a faint smile, the warmth of the room and the twins' joy easing the knot in her chest from the night before. Felix Harrington entered, his golden hair catching the sunlight, his crisp white shirt rolled at the sleeves, a deliberate choice to soften his millionaire's aura. He carried a tray of fresh juice, setting it down with a practiced ease that belied the weight of the moment. The twins' chatter filled the silence, but Sophia's guarded posture, her fingers tracing the edge of her plate, told Felix she was still wrestling with the refuge he'd offered. He poured her a glass, his voice low and inviting. "You look like you slept. Join us for breakfast?" She nodded, her green eyes flickering with gratitude and unease, a fragile bridge between their shared past and this uncertain present. The twins' laughter faded as they dug into their meal, and Felix seized the quiet to probe deeper, his tone gentle but insistent. "Sophia, what happened to you? How did you end up on that street?" he asked, leaning forward, his blue eyes searching hers for truths she'd buried. Sophia's hand stilled, her fork hovering, and for a moment she seemed to retreat inward, the weight of memory pressing against her resolve. She glanced at Lily and Rose, their faces smeared with syrup, and drew a shaky breath, her voice barely above a whisper. "After high school, I fell for Derek Vance. You might remember him, always the center of attention. I thought he loved me, thought we'd build a life together. When I got pregnant with the twins, he swore he'd stay. But when I told him, he vanished, said he wasn't ready for a family." Her words carried a raw edge, each syllable a wound reopened. Felix's jaw tightened, the name Derek Vance conjuring a flash of memory, a charming, selfish boy who'd breezed through life, leaving others to clean up his messes. He leaned back, his fingers curling around his coffee mug. The warmth of it grounded him as anger simmered beneath his calm exterior. "He just left you, alone with 2 babies?" he asked, his voice steady but laced with disbelief, his mind racing to piece together the years of hardship she'd endured. Sophia nodded, her gaze dropping to her lap, tears glistening but unshed. "My parents tried, but they had little to give. I worked odd jobs, scraped by, but when the twins were 2, I lost my waitressing gig. The bills piled up and we were evicted. For 2 years, we've survived on the streets, relying on strangers' kindness." Her voice cracked, shame and defiance warring in her tone, and Felix felt a pang, the scale of her struggle humbling him. The dining room fell silent, save for the twins' soft humming, their innocence a stark contrast to the pain Sophia laid bare. Felix's mind churned, the image of her on that cold pavement, now sharpened by the story of betrayal and loss. He wanted to reach across the table to erase the years of hurt, but her rigid posture warned him to tread carefully. "Why didn't you ask for help?" he asked, his voice softer now, not accusing but seeking to understand, his heart aching for the pride that had kept her isolated. Sophia's lips trembled, and she met his gaze, her eyes fierce despite the tears. "I was ashamed, Felix. Ashamed of failing my girls, of falling so far. I couldn't face anyone, especially you. Not after how I treated you back then." Her admission hung between them, a confession of past cruelty and present vulnerability, and Felix felt the old sting of her rejection fade, replaced by a resolve to lift her from despair. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his voice firm, yet laced with compassion, a promise woven into each word. "You're not alone anymore, Sophia. You and your girls have a place here, and I'll help you rebuild, not because of the past, but because you deserve it." Her eyes widened, hope flickering like a fragile flame. But doubt lingered, her fingers twisting the napkin in her lap. "Why are you doing this? After everything?" she asked, her voice barely audible, searching his face for motives she couldn't grasp. Felix hesitated, the truth of his feelings, a love never fully extinguished, too raw to voice. Instead, he offered a quiet truth, his gaze unwavering. "Because I care, Sophia. I always have, and seeing you like this, I can't walk away." The words settled between them, heavy with meaning, a vow that stretched beyond this moment. Lily's sudden giggle broke the tension, her fork clattering as she reached for another berry, and Sophia's face softened, her focus shifting to her daughters. Felix watched, his resolve hardening. He would protect this fragile family, no matter the cost. He stood, clearing the plates, and spoke to Clara, who'd appeared at the doorway. "Make sure the girls have toys to play with today, and check if we have any children's clothes." Sophia's head snapped up, her voice sharp. "We don't need handouts, Felix." But he met her gaze, his expression unyielding yet kind. "It's not about handouts. It's about giving your girls what they need to thrive." She held his stare, then looked away, her silence a reluctant acceptance, the first crack in her pride's armor. As Clara led the twins to a sunlit playroom, Sophia lingered, her fingers tracing the locket at her neck, a relic of better days. Felix watched from the doorway, his heart heavy with the truths she'd shared. He knew this was only the beginning. Her past was a shadow that would linger, but he was determined to help her step into the light. In his study, he'd later pore over contacts, seeking ways to support her dreams, unaware that Sophia, alone in the guest suite, was grappling with a flicker of hope, her fear of dependence warring with the safety of this new haven. Their paths, once divergent, were now entwined, leading toward a future neither could yet see. The mansion's dining room, once heavy with Sophia's confessions, now hummed with the twins' chatter, their laughter a delicate thread weaving through the morning air. Sophia Langston sipped her coffee, her green eyes softer than the day before, though still shadowed by the weight of her past. Felix Harrington, seated across from her, watched the subtle shift in her demeanor, his golden hair glinting in the sunlight as he buttered a slice of toast for Rose. The truths Sophia had shared, Derek's betrayal, her years of struggle, had deepened his resolve, and he sensed a crack in her guarded pride, a flicker of hope she couldn't yet name. As Lily recounted a dream about flying, Felix saw an opening, a chance to nudge Sophia toward a future she'd buried. He leaned forward, his voice warm but deliberate. "Sophia, did you ever have plans before? Everything? Dreams you wanted to chase?" Her gaze flickered, surprise mingling with caution, and he pressed gently. "You were always sharp, ambitious. What did you want back then?" Sophia set her mug down, her fingers lingering on its warmth, and glanced at the twins, their syrup-streaked faces oblivious to the gravity of the moment. She hesitated, as if unearthing her dreams might shatter the fragile stability of this haven, but Felix's steady gaze coaxed her forward. "I wanted to study law," she admitted, her voice low, tinged with a longing she hadn't voiced in years. "I dreamed of being a lawyer, helping people who couldn't help themselves. But life, it got in the way." The words carried a quiet ache, and Felix's heart stirred, envisioning the vibrant girl who'd once seemed destined for greatness. He stood, retrieving a sleek brochure from a nearby table, its cover embossed with the name of a prestigious law program. "You could still do it," he said, sliding it toward her, his tone firm yet encouraging. "I'll cover the costs, and Clara can watch Lily and Rose while you study." Her eyes widened, the brochure a tangible challenge to her self-imposed limits, and she shook her head, pride flaring like a reflex. "Felix, "You've done too much already. I can't keep taking from you," she said, her voice tight, her fingers curling into her palms. But Felix leaned closer, his blue eyes locking with hers, his words measured to pierce her defenses. "This isn't just for you, Sophia. It's for Lily and Rose. A stronger you, with a career, means a better life for them. Don't you want that?" The twins giggled, unaware, as Sophia's gaze darted to them, her resolve wavering under the weight of their future. She touched the brochure, its glossy surface a promise and a risk, and whispered, "I don't know if I can start over." Felix's voice softened, a quiet vow in his reply. "You can, and I'll be here every step." Days bled into weeks, and Sophia, after sleepless nights wrestling with doubt, enrolled in the law program, her decision a fragile leap toward reclaiming her identity. The mansion became a rhythm of new routines, mornings filled with study, afternoons with the twins' laughter in the garden, and evenings where Felix offered quiet encouragement, his presence a steady anchor. Sophia pored over textbooks in a sunlit study, her brow furrowed, her determination growing with each page. Clara, ever maternal, braided the twins' hair and taught them nursery rhymes, freeing Sophia to focus. Yet, Felix's mind churned with unfinished business. Derek Vance, the man who'd abandoned Sophia, loomed like a specter. Late one evening, he tracked Derek down, finding him in a dimly lit bar, his once charming face now lined with defeat. Felix's voice was cold, his anger barely leashed. "You left her to suffer. You left your daughters. Why?" Derek shrugged, his eyes dull, his voice devoid of remorse. "I wasn't ready for kids, for any of it. Walking away was easier." Felix's fists clenched, the urge to lash out warring with his need for answers. But Derek's indifference only fueled his resolve to shield Sophia's new path. "They're better off without you," Felix said, turning away, the encounter leaving a bitter taste but sharpening his purpose. He didn't tell Sophia, not yet, sensing she needed to face her past in her own time. But the knowledge of Derek's callousness hardened his commitment to her and the twins. Back at the mansion, Sophia's progress was palpable, her notes sprawling across the desk, her confidence budding like a flower after winter. She'd catch Felix watching her, his faint smile a silent cheer, and though gratitude warmed her, so did unease. She feared dependence, feared the debt of his kindness. One afternoon, as Lily and Rose painted in the garden, Sophia found Felix in the library, his head bent over a contract. "I'm trying," she said, her voice steady but vulnerable. "But I don't know how to repay you for this." He looked up, his expression softening, and set his pen down. "You don't owe me, Sophia. Seeing you fight for yourself, for your girls, that's enough." His words, simple yet profound, eased her guilt, and she nodded, a spark of trust igniting between them. As Sophia returned to her books, Felix watched her go, his heart a tangle of admiration and unspoken feelings. He knew her journey was just beginning, that the shadows of Derek and her past would resurface, but he was ready to stand by her. In the guest suite, Sophia sat by the twins' bedside, their soft snores a reminder of why she pushed forward. The law program was daunting, but each lesson, each moment of clarity, felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent to her transformation. But within these walls, a new chapter was unfolding. One where dreams, once buried, were rising to meet the light. The mansion study, where Sophia Langston now spent her mornings buried in law textbooks, hummed with quiet purpose, its shelves of leather-bound volumes a testament to Felix Harrington's world of wealth and discipline. Sophia's confidence had grown, her notes sprawling across the desk, each page a step toward the lawyer she'd once dreamed of becoming. Lily and Rose, playing in the garden under Clara's watchful eye, filled the air with laughter, their joy a stark contrast to the street corner where Felix had found them. Yet, the shadow of Derek Vance, the man who'd abandoned Sophia and her twins, lingered in Felix's mind. His indifference during their confrontation, a wound that festered. Sophia, unaware of Felix's encounter, sensed a shift in his quiet intensity, his blue eyes occasionally distant, as if guarding a secret. One evening, as she closed her laptop, Felix entered, his expression resolute, and said, "Sophia, there's something you need to know about Derek." Her heart stuttered, the name a jolt, but she nodded, bracing for truths she'd long avoided. Felix sat across from her, the firelight casting shadows on his golden hair, and recounted his meeting with Derek, his voice steady but edged with restrained anger. "I found him in a bar, washed up, unrepentant. He admitted he left you because it was easier. Said he wasn't ready for the twins or you," he said, his fists clenching as he spoke, the memory of Derek's shrug igniting fresh fury. Sophia's face paled, her fingers tightening around her pen, the confirmation of Derek's callousness, both painful and unsurprising. She stared at the desk, her mind racing through years of betrayal, the nights spent shielding Lily and Rose from hunger and cold. "I knew he didn't care," she whispered, her voice trembling yet resolute. "But hearing it, it's like losing him all over again." Felix leaned forward, his gaze softening, and said, "You don't need him, Sophia. You and the girls are stronger than he'll ever know." His words, a quiet anchor, stirred a resolve in her to face her past head-on. The next morning, Sophia stood in the guest suite, the twins' soft snores a reminder of why she needed closure. She pulled out her phone, her hands trembling as she dialed Derek's number, the act a defiance of the shame that had kept her silent. When he answered, his voice flat and indifferent, she steeled herself, her tone firm despite the ache in her chest. "Derek, it's Sophia. I need to know you're truly out of our lives, for my girl's sake," she said, each word a step toward freedom. Derek sighed, his disinterest palpable, and replied, "I don't want to be a father, Sophia. I never did. You should move on." The line went dead, his words a final cut. But Sophia felt a weight lift, the silence that followed not empty but liberating. She sank onto the bed, tears falling. Not for Derek, but for the years she'd carried his shadow, and whispered to herself, "We're free now." Felix, sensing her need for space, busied himself with the twins, helping them build a fort in the living room, their giggles a balm to his concern. When Sophia emerged, her eyes, red but clear, he offered a faint smile, his voice gentle. "You okay?" She nodded, her resolve palpable, and said, "I called him. He's nothing to us anymore." Felix's admiration deepened, but he saw the exhaustion in her posture and shifted gears, his tone brightening. "You're doing incredible things, Sophia. I've been thinking, you're learning so fast. How about a role at Harrington Enterprises? A legal assistant position, flexible enough for your studies and the girls." Her eyes widened, doubt flickering, and she protested, "Felix, I'm not qualified. I'd fail you." But he shook his head, his confidence unwavering, and said, "You're more capable than you know, and I believe in you." Sophia hesitated, the offer a daunting leap. But Felix's faith, coupled with her newfound freedom from Derek, tipped the scales. She accepted, and within days, she stepped into the sleek offices of Harrington Enterprises, her nerves tempered by determination. Her colleagues, a mix of seasoned lawyers and sharp assistants, welcomed her, impressed by her quick grasp of legal documents and her meticulous attention to detail. The twins thrived in their routine, Clara's care allowing Sophia to balance work and study, while Felix joined them for evening games, his bond with Lily and Rose growing through shared stories and laughter. One night as Sophia tucked the twins in, she found Felix in the hallway, his expression soft, and said, "I was cruel to you once, Felix, back in school. I'm so sorry." Her voice broke. The apology a release of old guilt, and Felix's eyes warmed. His reply simple, yet profound. "The past is gone, Sophia. We're building something new." Their conversation lingered, a quiet milestone, as Sophia returned to her room, her heart lighter. Felix, in his study, pored over reports, but his thoughts drifted to her resilience. Her apology a bridge to a deeper connection. He knew her journey was far from over. That trust would take time, but the spark between them was undeniable, a flame waiting to ignite. Sophia, gazing at the twins' sleeping forms, felt a surge of hope. Her law studies and new role, a foundation for a future she could shape. The mansion, once a temporary refuge, was becoming a home, its walls holding the promise of healing and the courage to embrace what lay ahead. The mansion's halls, once silent, now thrummed with the vibrant energy of Sophia Langston's transformation. Her days a tapestry of law studies, work at Harrington Enterprises, and tender moments with Lily and Rose. Sophia's apology to Felix Harrington, a heartfelt reckoning with their past, had softened the edges of their connection. Her green eyes no longer shadowed by shame, but alight with purpose. Felix, his golden hair catching the morning sun, felt the shift, his admiration for her resilience deepening into something he could no longer deny. Yet, a subtle tension lingered, her trust still fragile after years of betrayal, and Felix, ever patient, sought ways to bridge the gap. One evening, as the twins painted in the garden, their giggles floating through the open window, Sophia's phone buzzed with an anonymous message, a photo of Felix dining with an elegant woman, captioned, "Do you know who he is?" Her heart lurched, old fears of abandonment surging, and though she tried to dismiss it, the image gnawed at her newfound stability. Sophia sat in the study, her law notes forgotten, the phone's screen casting a harsh glow on her face as she wrestled with doubt. The memory of Derek's betrayal, his cold dismissal, echoed in the message's cryptic warning, and she questioned whether Felix's kindness hid a truth she couldn't see. When Felix returned, his suit jacket slung over his shoulder, he found her on the living room sofa, the twins' toys scattered nearby, her expression guarded. "Sophia, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice soft but urgent, his blue eyes scanning her for clues. She hesitated, then showed him the message, her fingers trembling, and said, "This came today. It's you, isn't it? Who is she, Felix?" His brow furrowed, surprise giving way to concern, and he knelt beside her, his tone steady. "It was a business meeting, a client for a new project. Nothing more, I swear." But Sophia's gaze wavered, her trust shaken, and she whispered, "Why would someone send this? It feels like a warning." Felix's jaw tightened, anger at the intrusion mixing with a fierce need to protect her fragile faith in him. He took her hand, his touch warm and grounding, and said, "I don't know who sent it, but I'll find out. You have to trust me, Sophia. I'd never hurt you or the girls." His sincerity pierced her doubt, but years of disappointment held her back, and she pulled her hand away, her voice barely audible. "I want to believe you, Felix, but it's hard. I've been burned before." He nodded, his expression unwavering, and promised, "I'll prove it. Give me time." Determined, he spent the next day tracing the message, discovering it came from a disgruntled former employee, a bitter soul seeking to sow discord. He returned with proof, a digital trail of the culprit's spite, and showed Sophia, his voice calm but resolute. "This was meant to hurt us, but it's nothing. I'm here, and I'm not hiding anything." Her shoulders eased, relief mingling with guilt, and she murmured, "I'm sorry I doubted you." The incident, though painful, marked a turning point in Sophia's trust in Felix, strengthened as she leaned into her work and studies. At Harrington Enterprises, her sharp insights during a team meeting earned nods from colleagues, her confidence blooming like a flower after frost. Felix watched, his pride evident, and offered her a permanent desk, a symbol of her place in his world. The twins, thriving under Clara's care, adored Felix, their bedtime stories now a ritual he cherished, his laughter mingling with theirs. One night, after tucking them in, Sophia found him in the kitchen, brewing tea, and felt a warmth she couldn't ignore. "You're so good with them," she said, her voice soft, and he smiled, his eyes holding hers. "They're easy to love, like their mother." The words, simple yet weighted, stirred her heart and she looked away, afraid of the feelings swelling within her. Weeks later, Felix seized a quiet moment on the mansion's terrace, the city lights shimmering below like a sea of stars. Sophia joined him, her blonde hair catching the moonlight, and he sensed the time was right to bare his soul. "Sophia, there's something I need to say," he began, his voice steady, but laced with vulnerability. "I've loved you since we were kids, through every rejection, every year apart. You and the girls have changed my life, and I want you in it, always." Her breath caught, his confession a wave crashing over her fears, and tears welled as she admitted, "I love you too, Felix, but I'm scared. I've lost so much." He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers, and said, "I'm not asking you to rush. I'll wait as long as it takes." The air crackled with unspoken promises, and Sophia nodded, her heart opening, a fragile trust taking root. "Under the stars," Felix proposed, pulling a delicate ring from his pocket, its diamond catching the light. "Will you marry me, Sophia? Let's build a life with Lily and Rose," he said, his voice thick with hope. Tears streamed down her cheeks, joy overtaking fear, and she whispered, "Yes, Felix, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, pulling her into an embrace, the city's hum fading as their future crystallized. The moment, a culmination of pain and healing, bound them, but Sophia knew one final step remained, to confront Derek once more, not for him, but for herself. As they returned inside, hand in hand, the mansion felt alive with possibility, their love a beacon guiding them toward the next chapter, where old wounds would close for good. The mansion's terrace, where Felix Harrington had proposed to Sophia Langston under a canopy of stars, now glowed with the soft light of dawn, its air infused with the promise of a new beginning. Sophia, her engagement ring catching the morning sun, stood in the garden watching Lily and Rose chase butterflies, their laughter a melody that anchored her heart. Felix's confession and her acceptance had unshackled her from fear, but a final shadow lingered. Derek Vance, the man who'd abandoned her and the twins. She needed to face him one last time, not for his sake, but to seal the past and move forward with her future. Felix, joining her with a mug of coffee, his golden hair tousled, sensed her resolve and squeezed her hand, his blue eyes steady. "If you need to see Derek, I'll support you," he said, his voice a quiet vow. "But you don't have to do it alone." Sophia nodded, her determination firm, and replied, "This is for me, Felix, to close that door forever." That afternoon, Sophia drove to a rundown bar on the city's edge, her heart pounding but her purpose clear. Derek stood outside, his once charming face now etched with the wear of poor choices, his eyes narrowing as she approached. "Sophia, what do you want?" he asked, his tone weary, as if her presence was an inconvenience. She stood tall, her voice unwavering, and said, "I'm here to tell you I expect nothing from you. You made your choice years ago, but my girls have a real father now, someone who loves them like you never could." Derek's gaze flickered, a fleeting shadow of regret, but he shrugged, his silence louder than words. "I failed you, Sophia, but I'm not built for this," he muttered, turning away. She felt a surge of liberation, the weight of his absence lifting, and walked back to her car, the bar's neon sign fading in her rearview mirror. A chapter finally closed. Back at the mansion, Felix greeted her in the courtyard, helping Lily and Rose set up a play tent, his laughter mingling with theirs. "How did it go?" he asked, his voice gentle as Sophia joined them, her face radiant with relief. "It's over," she said, smiling, "and I'm ready to move forward." Felix pulled her into a hug, his pride palpable, and whispered, "I knew you could do it." The twins squealed, tugging at their hands, and the moment crystallized their bond, a family forged through trials. Wedding preparations began, simple yet heartfelt, with Sophia choosing a white gown that glowed with understated elegance, and the twins delighting in their roles as flower girls. Felix involved them in every detail, from picking roses to tasting cakes, his joy infectious as the mansion buzzed with anticipation. The wedding day dawned clear, sunlight filtering through the garden where a small gathering of friends and Clara waited. Sophia walked down a petal-strewn aisle, her heart racing as she met Felix's gaze, his suit impeccable, his eyes brimming with love. Lily and Rose skipped ahead, scattering petals, their giggles a chorus of hope. The vows, spoken under an arch of blooms, were a testament to their journey. Felix promising to cherish and protect, Sophia vowing to trust and grow. As they exchanged rings, the twins rushed into their arms, and the guests' applause sealed their union. A family united not just by love, but by resilience. The reception, filled with laughter and music, felt like a dream, Sophia's heart full as she danced with Felix, the twins twirling nearby, their world complete. Months later, Sophia felt a wave of fatigue during a late-night study session, her legal work at Harrington Enterprises thriving but demanding. Felix, ever attentive, noticed her pallor and insisted on a doctor's visit, his voice firm yet tender. "I want you healthy, Sophia, for you and the girls." Reluctantly, she agreed, expecting routine advice, but the doctor's words stunned her. "Congratulations, you're pregnant." Her heart swelled, joy mingling with surprise, and she drove home, the city's lights blurring as she imagined sharing the news. Felix was in the living room, building a puzzle with the twins, his laughter pausing as she entered, her expression unreadable. "Felix, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, and as the twins scampered off, she took his hand. "I'm pregnant. We're having a baby." Felix's face lit up, a grin spreading as he pulled her close, his voice thick. "A baby? Sophia, this is incredible!" The twins, overhearing, raced back, their eyes wide with excitement, promising to be the best big sisters. The pregnancy brought them closer, Felix doting on Sophia, ensuring her comfort despite minor complications that required rest. One serene evening, as a gentle breeze stirred the curtains, Sophia's labor began, and Felix, calm but electric with anticipation, rushed her to the hospital. Hours later, a boy's cry echoed, and Ethan, healthy and strong, was born. Felix held him, tears falling as Sophia watched, her heart overflowing. "Welcome, my son," he whispered, while Lily and Rose ushered in, vowed to protect their brother. The mansion, now a true home, brimmed with love, Ethan's coos blending with the twins' laughter. Sophia, balancing motherhood and her legal ambitions, felt complete, with Felix her partner in every triumph. Their journey, forged through pain and redemption, had built an unbreakable family, each challenge a thread in their tapestry of hope. As the mansion's lights fade and Sophia and Felix's story settles in your heart, we hope it's left you with warmth and wonder. What did you think of their journey from pain to love? Share your thoughts and rate this tale from 0 to 10 in the comments. Did it spark hope or tug at your heartstrings? If you made it to the end, type sunshine to join our storyteller's circle. Thank you for curling up with us tonight, letting this tale cradle you toward dreams. Subscribe, hit the bell, and join us next time for another heartwarming story. Sleep well, and we'll meet again under the stars.